the paper would be sticking to the glue on your fingers and it would be pulling it off. Hi, and welcome to Crafting with Jana. I'm Jana, and I'm so happy you're here. I hope everyone is doing great. So today I want to share with you working with clay and molds and also decoupaging with paper and napkins. So let's make something ordinary into something extraordinary. So we're going to be decoupaging and working with clay. Obviously, decoupaging, you're going to need your scissors, your glue, your saran wrap, and obviously the napkin of your choice. I'm working with blue and white this year. And I've always loved this time of year. The leaves are turning, the breeze has turned to that wonderful fall chill. And also, I've always adored the orange pumpkins on the Thanksgiving table with the falling colorful leaves. But this year I wanted to do something different. So I'm going to share with you and show you how to take an ordinary pumpkin that you can buy at a craft store or obviously on Amazon. And, you know, the sky's the limit. Look at how beautiful. I was in the garden today. Look how beautiful the colors of nature are. I mean, they're really amazing. I would love to see what your Thanksgiving table is going to look like, and I'm going to share mine. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. What we want to do is open up our napkin and we are going to iron it. I have mine on an ironing mat that's on my table, and we really want to remove all of those creases. So now I'm going to come in with a very sharp pair of scissors, and you really want to make sure they're sharp because we are working with a paper napkin, which you all know is very fragile. And the napkins come in 3-ply or 2-ply, and you want to keep those plies on because if you remove them now, it will be impossible to cut out your image. Now, I like to cut around my image, then I will come in and I am going to cut even closer to my image. And I like to do this. You can also remove your images with the paintbrush and water and go around it and just gently pull it apart. But I personally prefer using scissors. It's just my preference. Whatever y'all are comfortable with, that's what you want to do. So I like to do this because I'm going to be applying my images very close to each other. Okay, so before we proceed decoupaging, we really want to remove those extra layers. So please just take a little piece of tape, apply it to the corner, and peel it back gently. Remember, these are paper napkins and they're extremely fragile. I know that I have 2 extra layers because I have been working with this napkin, and I'm just gently removing the back. Now, it's much easier to remove this because we have been cutting around the napkin. So it makes it a lot easier to remove the layers. And you just want to continue to do this with all of the images that you've already cut out, before we proceed decoupaging, because it's nice just to have everything on the table and ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about our glue. So I'm going to be using Elmer's glue, and I'm going to be putting it inside of my plastic container. And I love working with the Elmer's glue, white glue. And we're going to be adding a little bit of water at a time. A lot of people love using Mod Podge, and Mod Podge is a wonderful product. But I love working with Elmer's glue with a little bit of water. There's just something about it that when I'm adding the water, I feel that it gives me more work time, and I really love to have that extra work time. So it doesn't dry so fast on me is what I'm trying to say. So here I am adding a little bit of water, and I'm going to be mixing it with my paintbrush. And what we want to do is get a consistency of a very, very light cream, not a heavy cream, an extremely light cream. And when you're pulling your brush away and the glue is falling like it for almost an acrylic fluid paint, then you know you have the right consistency. So let's just, stir it around and play with it. And, if you feel like you have too much water, there you go. It's perfect. Beautiful. So if you get too much water, just go back in and add more glue. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It's just, remember, trial and error until you get it right. And once you do, you'll know exactly what to do time and again. So now I'm going to go in with my napkin, and I'm just going to decide where I'm going to place it. And I love it. So now I'm going to be applying my glue, and I'm just going to place my napkin now on top of my glue. And this is what I love about working with the Elmer's glue and the water. It gives me more of a working time, and it allows me, I feel, to manipulate my image better. It's not going to dry out on me so fast. And what you want to do is tap and brush and tap and brush and tap and brush very lightly. Don't, try not to rip your paper. If you do, don't worry, we'll come back in and fix it. It happens all the time. But it's great. So just tap, tap, and brush. This is the beauty of saran wrap. Now I'm going in with saran wrap, and I'm removing those wrinkles, and I'm adhering it very well to my pumpkin. And the saran wrap is a game changer, because if you were to try to do this with your fingers, it would be absolutely impossible. The paper would be sticking to the glue on your fingers, and it would be pulling it off. So I'm just gently going back in with my saran wrap, and I'm just going around the edges and, smoothing out any bumps or wrinkles or creases that it might have. And I like to always get a larger piece of the saran wrap and put it on top of the entire image. And I feel like this gives me a lot more control, and it really makes that napkin adhere so beautifully to your surface. And you're allowed to really go into those, those crevices and just get in there and remove and adhere everything. It's really fantastic. I mean, I can't imagine how we ever decoupaged without our saran wrap. So just, gently apply pressure, and don't worry about it. As I said, the glue is not going to adhere to your saran wrap, and it lifts beautifully. And I'm not always saying that it's going to be completely wrinkle free. After all, it is decoupage and they are napkins, but you're going to get a pretty smooth finish with this. It's pretty amazing. And this is the part I love the most, is when I'm peeling back my saran wrap and I just see how beautiful everything's adhered. I just love it. Okay, so here's a little tip. I know a lot of y'all worry about how are we going to get these images into those crevices. Well, you're going to cut. And you're going to cut on the sides, on the bottoms. You're not going to cut all the way through. But what you want to do is make those cuts so when you're applying your glue and you're applying your paper napkin, it's just going to fold and go perfectly in there. There's no right or wrong the way you cut it. What you want is to be able to manipulate that napkin with your paintbrush. And here we go. So don't be afraid. Just take it, tap, 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 and gently apply it. Nothing's going to happen. And if it rips, it's fine. We can go back in and we can fix it. There's not a problem. Just be patient with it. Be gentle. Brush it, tap it, and just, take it easy. I mean, don't worry about it. If it tears, don't worry about it. And the beauty about the saran wrap, if there is a separation where you have cut, you're going to be able to come back in with that saran wrap and gently push the pieces back together. I know it's awesome, right? But it's true. And so don't worry if where you cut it, you said, oh my God, they're not evenly aligned. With your saran wrap, you're going to be able to come back in and just gently push it all together again, and it is amazing. So here it is, my favorite part, working with my saran wrap and pulling it back. And I'm just always in awe how beautiful it adheres to my surface. I just wanted to go over the basics of what you're going to be needing with your air dry clay, the project we're going to be doing. So your clay, your mold, this is an IOD mold, a silicone mat, and if you don't have that, wax paper or a vinyl placemat will do. Then you're going to want tight bond, quick and thick, multi-surface glue, or I use Gorilla Wood glue, cornstarch, a scraper, a paintbrush. This is a double-sided clay tool with rubber ends, and cream. Of course, the cream of your choice. I always use cream before using my clay, and this prevents the stickiness because clay is very sticky, and sometimes I'll even stop when it gets too sticky and reapply it again. So let's just take our paintbrush and we're going to dip it lightly into the cornstarch. And I like using the cornstarch also because with the brush, I'm removing all of that dry clay. And it's very easy to do. I just don't like the dry clay to remain there when I'm putting my fresh clay because it doesn't look good. So just go around the edges, and this really helps facilitate removing when you're demolding your clay, which is great. Not everybody uses the cornstarch, but I happen to like using the cornstarch. So I wanted to share with you, I'm using IOD molds, and they are food safe and they're great. And don't use them, I mean, you can use them for baking goods, for furniture, for soaps, for jewelry, just about anything you can imagine. But you don't want to use the same mold for your baked goods. So please keep everything separate. Keep your craft mold for one thing and your baking for another. Now I have to tell you that I not only use the IOD molds, you can use any mold, but really the detail that they have is just amazing. So I'm using a palette knife. You can also use a credit card or a dull knife to flatten the back part of your clay. And this is really important because when you're applying it to your surface, you do want the back of that to be very flat. So here you can see that I have done a lot of leaves and acorns. And I like to do this because when I start applying it to I'm going to apply it to a pumpkin. So when I start applying it, I don't want to just do one, come back, mold, demold. I want to do several, but you don't want to do too many because you don't want your clay to get hard. So just kind of eyeball it and just make sure that your clay is still moist enough so you can apply it to your surface without any problem. Okay, so as you can see here, I've done several leaves and acorns. And what I'm doing here with my tool is just going in and cleaning up those edges. And you can do this with your fingers also. Just, pick up the leaf or whatever you're working on and just go around those edges and just smooth everything out. You really want to do this before applying it to your surface. It's just makes it a clean, crisp look. And that's what you want. So as you can see here, I've already applied several leaves and acorns. And what you want to do is grab your glue, and I like to use the end of my paintbrush and apply my glue. A lot of people like to use their fingers. I just don't like all the stickiness. And a lot of people just put it in the middle and it oozes out and they just clean it up afterwards. But I just like doing it this way. So I basically just apply the glue and gently, but I mean gently apply it to your surface. You don't want to deform the leaf or the acorn or whatever mold it is you're working with. Just gently put it, tap it in there and it will adhere beautifully. So here I've pretty much finished applying my acorns and my leaves. And what you want to do now is go in with the paintbrush in very little water. I'm just going to go around those edges and smooth everything out. Now, air dry clay is going to shrink and also it will crack. So you just want to make sure you're not putting too much water. And you can always go back in if the crack bothers you, if you don't want that vintage look, and just smooth it out. And you want to make sure that your clay, there are no gaps between your leaves, your acorns, whatever it is you're working on, and your surface, because it really won't look good. So just go around with your brush and just, make sure, like a lot of times I'll go in and just with the clay and pull it down to make sure it's really adhered to my surface, to my pumpkin or whatever it is I'm working on. Okay, so now I'm ready to paint my leaves, my clay leaves. And as you can see here, I've done decoupage and clay. And I've chosen to do blue. I love blue and white. So for my Thanksgiving table this year. And you can dip I love using makeup sponges. They're very soft. And if I sometimes dab a little bit of water, but it's really not necessary because I end up offloading it. You do not want a lot of water on your clay. You don't want it to crack. So all you do is just tap, tap, tap and go around your pumpkin and make some leaves lighter, some darker, whatever, any color you want. The sky's the limit. Now, a lot of you have asked me if you can paint the wet clay like if you can paint it immediately. And I highly suggest that you wait at least 30 minutes before applying your acrylic. I love working with clay and acrylics and decoupaging, and I know you will too. Okay, so it happens. Sometimes you get blue on the white surface, and all you have to do is go in with your acrylic and with your makeup sponge and just tap on it, and voila, it disappears. It's great. And if you do the opposite while you're putting the white and you get it on the blue, just go back and fix it with blue. Now, if you want to make your clay water resistant, I always recommend using either clear polyurethane varnish or an acrylic sealer. Both of these create a non-porous transparent layer that seals your clay project. They can be brushed on or sprayed on and usually come in either a matte, satin, or gloss finish. Have fun crafting. Hope I've inspired you to do amazing things. With a little bit of imagination, as I said before, let's take the ordinary and make it extraordinary. I hope I've inspired you to do wonderful things. Don't forget to seal. You can use Mod Podge, you can use Rust-Oleum, you can use polyacrylic, or you can use varnish. You know, it depends if you want to go outside or not.